Hey everybody, and welcome back to our PortSwigger Web Academy series. In this playlist, we're going to focus on SQL Injection or SQL Labs. SQL Injection is a type of cyber attack where malicious code is injected into a SQL query to gain unauthorized access to a database. Such an attack can result in data theft, modification, or even deletion of data or tables within a database. There are roughly 16 to 17 labs as of now in Web Academy pertaining to SQL attacks, and we'll touch on each and every one of them. I'll provide not only the solution, but an explanation as to why the solution works for each lab, if applicable. Just an FYI, I have a playlist for every category in the Web Academy. So if you ever find yourself stuck on a lab, feel free to look through the playlist to find not only the solution, but the explanation. And hopefully it'll give you the clarity that you need. But if not, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll respond as best I can in the comments. But if 3 or more people ask the same or similar question, I'll more than likely create a video giving much more detail. So that being said, let's get into it. Okay, so we're in it. And this lab is titled Determining the Number of Columns Returned by the Query. And just a heads up, the next 4 labs after the first 2, so lab 3 through 7, 6 are, don't get my math involved, but the next couple of labs, including this one, are basically working to create what's called a union attack. And a union attack is a type of SQL injection that exploits the union operation in SQL to combine the results of like 2 or more select statements. And the technique can basically be used to extract sensitive data from a database or perform like unauthorized actions. And there's multiple steps and requirements in order to create a union attack. And so that's what we'll be going through in the next 4 labs, including this one. So this lab and 3 subsequent labs will be basically compounding to create what is called a union attack. And the very first thing you have to do in order to use a union attack or perform one is to determine how many columns there are. We'll go through the rest of the steps in, like I said, the subsequent labs. But in this one, we're just going to first just figure out how many columns there are. And if you go to the lab interior, which I always direct people to, it shows you how to do it straight up right here. You can basically solve this lab by either using the order by clauses or the null value, assuming the former doesn't work. And you're probably asking yourself, like, what is order by or null values? Order by is basically a sort mechanism. And heads up, SQL injection attacks, in order to perform them, you have to really understand SQL, like the SQL language. So yeah, you can do these attacks, you can memorize it, but it really helps to understand the SQL language. And then from there, you're just exploiting the secret, what you know about SQL against the database. Whenever you're doing your ethical pen testing or bug bounties or whatever, it's really helpful to understand SQL. So order by is it's a keyword or query, not a query. It's a keyword in SQL. And you can basically set the sort with text, expression, etc. We're interested in the column. So we'll order it by a numerical value, which would be the index. And in this case, it would increment the index value until we got an error. And this is all said in this paragraph. So if you really just want to dive into what I'm saying, read this paragraph here. The link's in the description below, but I'm just summarizing it. In order to basically get the order by or understand how it works, you're really just looking for an error message. And once you get that error message, that means that you went out of range for the number of columns. And once you see that error, just use the previous number as the correct number, and I'll show you what I mean in the solution. So if order by doesn't work, we can also use null values. Null values are used as a placeholder and signify a missing or unknown value. Again, another keyword in SQL. In this case, we don't know what the column values are, but we know there are columns with values. So let's just add a placeholder until we get out of range and then look for the error as we would in the columns. So without further ado, let's just jump into it right now. So I'm gonna pull up Burp Suite. So I'll pull up Burp and I'm gonna hop into the lab. Okay, so in the lab, you see that there's clearly tables. I'm gonna click around, check the URL up here. It says filter category. Category lets me know that's a column in the table or something. And so I'm gonna click around and I see that changes, and the data changes as well depending on the column search words I'm using. So what we're then going to do, we're going to use order by. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. And if you saw in the previous labs, we had that comment out, we had that single quote. I'm going to bring that back. We're pretty much adding on to this to say, okay, order by one and then comment out the rest. So let's go ahead and try it. Cool. So this lets us know that this is previous SQL injection. It's just popping up on the screen, and we haven't gotten an error yet. So this lets me know there's at least one column. The next thing I do is go back and just keep incrementing, order by two, and just keep incrementing. And that's not a problem. So, but boom, we get to 4. I go up to 4 and there's an error. So that lets me know, there's an error here. Now I go back to 3 and I know that there's 3 columns, but that doesn't solve the lab, as you can clearly see up here. So what I need to do, I need to bring this back up, because there's something to solve the lab. Determine the number of columns, which you did. Return by the query by performing a union attack that returns an additional row containing null bytes. So I know the number of columns, not null bytes, null values. I know the number of columns, but I don't have that null value. I don't have anything popping up. So now that I know there's 3 columns, I'm gonna take the second option, which was null values, and use it as a placeholder. So I'm going to go here. I'm gonna actually click on this because this will help us out. All right, here we go. And then I know there's 3 columns, so I'm gonna copy this and throw that here. So now it's union, because you have to have the union select. Sorry, let me throw that out there. You have to give it the union select, because that actually performs the union attack. So you have to add union, select, and then you want that null value to come up. So you want to use null, comment out, press enter. We solve the lab. Now, this makes sense to nobody because all you saw was, okay, I did that, but what does that mean? Doesn't mean anything right now. But let me show you what it would do if we added this to a query that was supposed to go through. So here, remember, you were able to click all labs, all clothing, corporate gifts. These are different tables. Now we want to add to that. We want to put a union. Basically, we're performing a union attack. And union attack combines select statements. This is a part of a single select statement. This gifts. It's going on the back end through a select query to the database as it's supposed to. We're appending another select statement on this using this quote and a union keyword select and null. So once we do that, we press enter. And I don't know if you saw that, but there was a null column right here. There's a null column there, and that's how we solve the lab. So that's it. That's the answer. I explained what order by and null values are. And again, this is adding to adding steps to really being able to perform a union attack. This is really just step one of 4 to really perform a union attack. This is like a small size union attack. So I'll see you in the next video. So I wanted to add on to this because I know at the end it kind of may have left it open as to why the null was still there. And the answer is given in the lab material here, where it says, again, the application might actually return this error or might just return a generic error or no results. That's basically if the number of nulls doesn't match the number of columns, and yada yada yada. But when the number of nulls actually matches the number of columns, the database returns an additional row in the result set containing null values in each column. So that's essentially why there's null value, like there's a null value there, because there's 3 columns and the null matches the 3 columns, and so it just spits out this as an error. So like I said, that's pretty much it for this lab. I'll see you in the next one.